Let me set the scene for Deadline. Andrea Deverne, self-made businesswoman, comes home from work late one night. The house is empty. As soon as she sets foot through the door, she receives a phone call. An anonymous voice comes down the line, disguised. We've got your daughter, and you've got 48 hours to find £500,000 or you'll never see her alive again. Andrea's got two options. Does she phone the police and involve them, or does she try and go it alone? Unfortunately for her, she tries to go it alone. She makes a phone call to someone she knows from the past, and that phone call is going to set her down an extremely dangerous path and put her daughter's life in grave, grave danger. Where did I get the idea for Deadline? I wanted to write a kidnap for ransom thriller. I know they've been written plenty of times before, but I fancied trying to look at it from a little bit of a different angle. And when I have a germ of an idea, I tend to just develop that. And I was very, very keen to write a book with very much from a female protagonist's point of view. So I wanted the kidnapped victim's mother to be the main character. And it just sort of took off from there. I love writing race against time thrillers because they lend themselves to a very, very fast pace. I mean, if we look at my books, Relentless took place over 24 hours, Severed took place over about 10 hours, and Deadline takes place over roughly 48 hours, which makes it quite lengthy by my standards. But when I know that I have only a certain amount of time to operate in, it tends to make my chapters move much faster. It also lends itself very much to writing fast as well. I mean, I think when things are happening very, very quickly on the page, you tend to write very, very quickly. So I tend to find that I get my books done when they're race against time thrillers much quicker than I did when they were more police procedural based. So they're fun to write, they're quick to write, and I think they're the kind of books, because of the sheer pace of them, that people like to read. Research for the novels is quite an interesting point. When I was starting out as a writer, in my early books, I tended to research very, very heavily. I tend to research less heavily now, but clearly writing about a kidnap for ransom, you do need to know what's going on. I have a number of contacts within specialist areas of the police force, and they're obviously able to give me some advice. What you find in terms of kidnappings is that the police are very, very cagey about giving too many details away, because we're talking very much about an ongoing operation rather than an investigation after the fact. So what I did was I wrote the book using the basics of how I wanted to tell the story, and then where I wasn't sure about certain police procedures, I let one of my particularly specialist contacts from an area of the Serious and Organised Crime Agency take a look at the book and just check that it was basically authentic. So, but for me personally, I wouldn't let research get in the way of a good story. I mean, these fast-paced thrillers, you want to make them as exciting as possible, and just make sure that they have an element of realism in there as well. I thought quite long and hard about writing about a kidnap story, particularly a kidnapping involving a 14-year-old girl. Because I'm a parent of my own. I have two daughters of 9 and 5, and so when I was writing it, I wanted to treat the subject as sensitively as possible, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make it a kidnap for ransom rather than something more sinister in terms of an abduction. Because I felt that writing from a parent's point of view, I could make it more perhaps realistic than someone writing about a daughter disappearing that didn't have daughters of their own. So it was quite hard going at times, particularly writing from Emma, the teenage victim's point of view. But I hope I've written it as sensitively as possible.